Hello everybody, let's talk about Enphase today. So they reported their Q3. I listened to about half a conference call. The other half of my time was spent making this presentation. Going to tell you how I feel about this company. As you know, Enphase is a large position for me. Enphase is one of my losers. I am down on the stock. And of course, Enphase is a stock that I was buying when times were going well. Revenue was growing. Look at that amazing revenue growth we had between 2018 and 2023. And then what did we happen? Interest rates started kicking in. Installers had ordered too much Enphase microinverters. They were too optimistic. There were too much stock in the distribution channels of Enphase, and the sales fell off a cliff. The stock followed, and the question, of course, is Enphase, because it hasn't been getting any credit in the market for the past year plus, hasn't been getting any credit. Enphase purposely kind of, held back and spooked the market. At about this time, a year ago, they did that. And they said, oh, you know what? We're just going to reduce the growth in the inventory. And that's what they did. And it translated into their sales, into how they book their sales. And that's why you have this precipitous cliff in the sales. But of course, the sell-through at the distributor was actually flatter than that. There was no such cliff like that at the distributor level. That cliff is seen at the Enphase level because the distributors had overstocked anyways. Now, and this is perhaps the most important thing that Enphase said, is that the channel is now normalized. The channel is now normalized. You can read right here. The increase in shipments, right, between Q2 and Q3 was due in the US by 43%. They increased shipments by 43% quarter over quarter in the United States, and that increase was due to distributor inventory returning to normal. So the underlying demand is there, and this is a business who, although it has taken a major hit with the interest rates, and make no mistake, the halt in sales of solar has everything to do with the interest rates. Even though it has gone through that, it is now going for a revival, and the sales are growing again, and nobody can argue with me on that. Q1 was 263, Q2 was 303, Q3 was 380. So it's clearly growing. The sales are clearly growing again. From Q2 to Q3, we had plus 25% quarter over quarter. From Q1 to Q3, we had plus 44% over quarter. And with their guidance that they gave, they're saying up to 400 million in Q4, maybe as low as 360. Either way, if you analyze that, you're getting growth for the 4 quarters of 2024 between Q1 and Q4. You're going to get growth close to 50%, maybe in the worst case scenario of 48% or something like that. You could get a little higher than 50% too. So growth seems to be back at about 50%. That is after they have entirely halted their shipments in Q1 and in Q2 to try to deal with that inventory backlog. So where's the growth going from here? Well, my view is that it's going up because there is a secular demand for solar. When I talk about my proverbial walk in the neighborhood, look at how many homes have solar panels on the roof. Well, it's not 10% anymore. Maybe it's 12% now, 13%. And my view is that over the next 10 years, we're going to move to a world where now we have maybe 12 or 13% of homes that have solar on their roof, to a world where we're going to have 60, 70, maybe 80% of homes who have solar on their roofs, because that's what makes the most sense. If you want to delete a $3,000 a year electric bill, you got to get solar. That's how you delete that bill. And of course, do you want to bet that your bill is going to stay $2,000 to $3,000 a year for the average home? Or do you want to bet that it's going to triple, that bill is going to triple for the next 10 years? With AI, with the demand of electricity by AI, I would not be surprised to see bills double or triple in a 10-year period. And then you end up in a situation where electric bill on a home is what, $8,000, $9,000 for electricity? It makes so much sense in my view. This is a secular story. In my view, it makes so much sense We have photons that just bombard the roof with photons from the sun. These photons need to be harvested. They are going to be harvested by a residential system. A roof is kind of a waste of space. If you have solar on it, you harness that energy and you can use that energy for so many different things of the future. And because the interest rates have distorted that demand, doesn't mean that we don't have long-term secular demand. Over the long run, solar has been distorted by so many governmental actions, right? And I count interest rate as governmental policy or the result of governmental policy, right? Back in the first crisis in solar in 08, 09, that was also because of the end of subsidies and poor government policy. This is a business that you see the success, you see the adoption of this business, in my view, over a 10-year period. It's very tough to see that adoption over a 4-year period in the case of Enphase. At least that's the way I view it. I also want to say this, and this is what kind of annoys me. It's like, believe me, I've been following Enphase for a while. Europe was barely mentioned ever. Europe, from years of me following Enphase, I'm the only one saying Europe is going to be a huge market for them. Europe is an important market for them. Typically, analysts, news outlets, they've never cared about Europe. And let me go even further. Typically, all of the analysts and news outlets have cared about is not even the USA. They don't even care about USA. It's just about California. It's like the updates haven't been updated. We just focus on California. And I remember for the past 18 months, it was all about NEM3 and California. Then IRA, then USA. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. The point is, now all of a sudden Europe is down, and now all of a sudden the narrative is, Europe's bad, Europe is down. Do we care about Europe or do we not care about Europe? Because my impression following this stock for years was that they never cared about Europe and was that they never cared about the rest of the USA. My impression is that we only cared about California. Now we start caring because we got to write a little bit of negativity. Now we start caring about Europe. Sorry about that rant. I've always cared about Europe, so I can tell you, I'm not happy that Europe is down quarter over quarter, but Europe is going through challenges of its own, Remotely, I still have a connection to Europe. I follow what's happening in France with the budget and the increase in taxes, etc. I know it's the same in many similar countries. Europe is dealing with an economic slowdown of its own, just like the US has dealt last year and perhaps a year earlier with an economic slowdown of its own. It is just the way it works. It's not going to be down forever, especially in the context of solar, when electricity is going to increase. I can only speak for France, but I follow France, and I can tell you electric bills are going up there next year. They are going up. They're nationally decided, and they are going up. They had promised they were not going up. Finally, they end up going up. The only guarantee that you have about electric rates in Europe is that they will be going up, and so it will get ever more compelling over there, and I think this is temporary. This is a temporary slowdown. That's what I think. Over the long run, we're going to see more solar, is the way I view it. This is not charcoal. This company is not investing in charcoal. It's not investing in oil. It's investing in the stock of solar that we are going to have as nations in the future. And so I'm still as bullish as ever on this stock, even though, the chart is not telling me I'm right? I look at the chart, I look at the price of the stock, it's not telling me I'm right. But when I analyze this company, I just see a bunch of good things. And this is not bias of any kind. In fact, I've considered selling the position multiple times for tax loss harvesting. But the reason why I'm holding back for doing that is because if I tax loss harvest, right, I can't buy back for 2 months. I gotta wait 2 months. Right? Because it's possible that the stock is going to go down more over the next 2 months with the election, etc., etc. But it's a big gamble to just sell a stock and maybe try to get back in later. This is a gamble that for now I'm not willing to take, because over the long run, I am confident in the thesis of this company. As you know, One of the things that I've been talking about in a positive way is the IRA. A lot of people talk about the IRA in a negative way. Well, that's not true. 2 years ago, they talked about it positively. Now, because, you got to create some FUD, Enphase is one of the most heavily shorted stocks in the S&P 500. You read the news, almost every other month, there's a news, Enphase among the top shorted stocks in the S&P 500. So you have to establish the FUD and talk about the FUD. So the IRA now is seen as a negative. Oh, well, it looks like the Republicans are going to win, and it looks like they're going to win. So if they win, they're going to repeal the IRA, right? They addressed that on the conference call. Battery addressed that on the conference call. He said, we really don't think that's going to happen because this IRA is actually creating a bunch of jobs, and we opened 2 manufacturing facilities, and this is an industry that's creating a lot of jobs, so really don't think that's going to happen. He assigned it on the call a 0% probability, right? Battery assigns 0% probability on IRA getting repealed. Do you think that's going to be an article? Do you think there's going to be an article in the news that says battery assigns 0% probability to that? Probably not. They're going to keep saying, fears of the IRA being repealed. And so, on November 4th, I believe, on November 4th, maybe Enphase is one of the stocks that goes down as like an election trade. Enphase bad now because they're going to repeal it, and it's not understanding how the House, the Senate, the White House work, how bills work. It's just, once something is voted in, something is voted in. I'm sorry I ramble. Let me talk about the IRA benefits in a very good way when it comes to Enphase. Right now, they are making 16% of their microinverters in the USA right now, and I think that pie is going to grow. So let's assume they make the 7.25 million microinverters in the USA sometime in the future, in a few years. Okay, and of course that doesn't really necessarily mean they're not gonna close the India plant or the Chinese plant or the Guadalajara plant. It doesn't mean they're gonna close that. It means let's just assume that the shipment of microinverters just keeps growing and growing and growing steadily, and they end up making 7.25 million micros of the USA. So with 16% of that at 1.1 million, they made 35 million in IRA benefits. What if it was 100% of those in the USA? They would have made $218 million a quarter in IRA cash flows, IRS direct pay, as they say, right? In IRA cash flow, that would have been $872 million a year in IRA subsidies. The business enterprise value, it's actually lower than that now that the stock is down 10%, but assume the stock is 10% higher than what it's trading at right now. So let's take a $12 billion enterprise value. Right now, this stock is trading at a 13.6 times theoretical price to subsidy. This is a ratio I made up. Price to subsidy. Price to quote unquote, cash, stimulus cash from the government. This is, the IRA is just the government spending $2 trillion of taxpayers' money. But it's a political opportunity. That's what it is. It's a political opportunity. And so, by the way, this IRA, obviously they don't need it because without the subsidies, they still have an amazing margin at 148 million a quarter without the subsidies. This is the 35 million they got is just icing on the cake. That's all it is. Let me just get into some back of a napkin time. Let's imagine a fully made in the USA future where, let's say, they were to make the 7.25 million microinverters in the US. So that would be 148 profit per quarter on their margin, right? Their regular margin, plus 218 million of subsidy. You're talking at 366 million a quarter, or 1.4 billion per year in cash flow from that. And so right now the business is trading at 11.92 before the drop of the day. So that would be a 8x on theoretical future cash flow, probably more like a 7x because the stock is probably down about $1 billion right now. So, of course, 7x, that's for a business growing how fast, you ask? Well, look at the curve, look at where we are. It looks like we've hit the bottom in Q1 of 24. That was the bottom, and it looks like to me we're gonna go back up. That's what it looks like to me. So what's the growth rate of that business? It's probably not zero anymore. Keep in mind we're gonna have easy comps right? In 2 quarters, we're going to be comparing this to Q1 of 2024. So we're going to have easy comps. You're going to have Enphase reporting, up 50%, 60% year over year. You're going to have easy comps, just like we have very tough comps right now. Just 2 quarters to go of tough comps, and then we get some easy comps. So anyways, that doesn't include the growth of the business, right? And I think it's going to grow back to double-digit growth. That's point number one. And it doesn't include, of course, the size of the market long term, which is the IRA subsidy. By how much is the IRA subsidy going to increase with gallium nitride IQ9s? Battery said the IQ9s were coming in the second half of 2025. Now, honestly, I don't like that. I was expecting it in the first half of 2025. So that's annoying. Why 2 more quarters than what I was expecting for the GAN IQ9? That is annoying. But then again, if it's a stock, I buy stock for a 10-year period. If this is a 10-year investment, I shouldn't be too upset about it. It's a 10-year story. It's a 10-year investment, right? IRA subsidies, they will increase with the battery shipments, right? They're working on better batteries, and when you have better batteries, you're going to get a lot of these manufacturing credits. And of course, don't forget, we are in a secular trend of people adopting solar, very secular demand. Now, Enphase is a long-term story, like I said, and I understand the frustration of a stock having been dead money for 4 years now, and in fact, I did not benefit of a run before 2020 because I was not in the stock prior to October 2020. I am down about 30% of a position on the position. Is that annoying? Yeah, but in a portfolio is a portfolio. I'm up 7x on MicroStrategy, so it's like some. In the grand scheme of things, the drop is not comparable, in my view, not comparable to anything we saw with the SPACs. I was reading about 23andMe the other day. Think about how much money was lost in a stock like 23andMe, which I remember was a popular stock in YouTube and investing spheres. I could go on and on and on, To me, this is not a major loser. I don't even consider it a loser for now, right? There's a loser that it was Open Door, right? Early days in the channel, I was big about Open Door. Open Door, I cut my losses, sold it 80% down, moved on to better things, right? Open Door was a loser. This one, I don't put it as a loser at all. I don't put it as a loser at all because I know why it's down. Why is it down? Because we've had this crazy interest rates increases. So look at the interest rate increases. It's really uncanny as the rates increase. The revenue drops. Let me even drop this next to it, right? If you overlay this, right? So let me bring to front. Okay, as the rates increase, the revenue drop. Like this is quite uncanny, and it took a while, but the revenue drops with the rates. People are less likely to spend $30,000 on a really nice solar install when the rates are 5%. And the more the rates drop, the more it will benefit Enphase. That is my view. Notice how Tesla, another company that sells a product at a price point, well, in the case of Tesla, a price point even higher than the price point of a solar install, but a product that also saves money, right? I believe the main driver of electric cars is because people buy electric cars because it costs $6 of electricity to fuel them versus $60 of gas. That's why people buy electric cars. So it's a money-saving item in an electric car, in my view. But okay, people are less likely to buy them too because those interest rates are crazy. But nonetheless, and this is my point, whether you look at Enphase and Tesla, you're still looking at best-in-class company. Okay, Enphase is starting to lag. It has been 4 years without a return. It is now starting to lag Tesla. But 2 years ago when I was covering Enphase was neck to neck with Tesla when it comes to performance. Enphase was very close to the Tesla performance. But Tesla, if you overlay the Tesla long-term performance to NVIDIA, it is also starting to lag. But these businesses, in my view, they are like coiled springs. And at some point, the coil, unravels and you have an explosion to the upside. These are the step changes in valuations that you see in a lot of these stocks who have an assessment period of definitely not a quarter. And I don't think there is any stock that can be assessed on a quarter, but also definitely not a year. This and this is the main flaw of my own spreadsheet when I use a 1 year out number. But I copy this from the analysts, right? Because that's what the analysts do. That's what everybody does. Even 1 year is in my view, not good enough to assess the strength, the power, the popularity of an innovation, of a technological invention like microinverters, like solar panels back in their day, like that technological revolution. I believe, 5 year might be a much better period. 10 year is definitely my period that I want to use and appeal to use. But, you look at the portfolio, not every 10 years, right? It's not the tin can strategy where you can just buy a stock, put it in a tin can, forget about it, and come back 10 years later. We would all be best served having a tin can strategy. Again, no financial advice. This is just my view. So, Enphase, yes, it's relatively expensive still. And you may say, oh, 8x, what are you talking about? I know stocks that are trading at less than 8x, in my best case scenario when I was talking 8x on future cash flows. I know stocks that are cheaper than that here and there. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I cover these, right? My Sunday video, that was a bunch of stocks that are cheaper than that. The question is, are the stocks that are cheaper than that number one in their field? I'm not so sure, but I know that Enphase, in my view, is number one in its field. It's number one in its field. Microinverters, I did not know this. Battery was saying that FEMA recommends microinverters for added safety. I didn't know that. Microinverters, I've been talking about microinverters on this channel so many times. I believe it is the superior technology, and we have seen nothing yet when it comes to gallium nitride microinverters that are coming, although it looks like we're going to have to wait another 10 months to see them. Really, I'm not happy about that Enphase. But anyways, it's still the number one player in the field, not in Europe, but in the USA it is. They have over 50% market share in the USA for system installed by installers. This is batteries data on the call today. They are best in class. I don't think many people argue with that. That's the leading firm. Just look at the stock price in that sector. That is the leading firm. They have the customer service. They have the distributor network. They have the installers that love them. They have a lot of things going for them. They are kind of a US star in this field. If First Solar is the star for panel manufacturing, Enphase is the American star for microinverters, just the way it is. And if you look at the price, well, it's trading at about 18 times enterprise value to free cash flow. So factor in the growth, probably lower than that now if you factor in that growth, right? Probably closer to high 16, low 17. And the enterprise value to sales, that's 8x. Again, factor in the drop of today, probably like a 7.5x, 7.2x, something like that. So not expensive by any means, not the cheapest either. But again, look at the product, look at the market share, look at what you're getting. And how would they, if they had a normalized growth rate, or not, I'm not going to say a normalized growth rate because some people are going to tell me, oh, that's too high. But I'm just going to take the 2024 realistic growth rate when we're going to compare Q1 of 25 to Q1 of 24, when we're going to get those numbers, that forward growth rate would have been what? 50% is what I assume. Maybe it's going to be 40%. Maybe it's going to be 60%. It can't be. It actually can't be 40% because we're at 44% in 2 months. So it can't be that, right? But I think they're going to keep growing. And so when you're going to compare Q1 of 25 to Q1 of 24, yeah, you're going to be at about plus 50% from the bottom to the new level. And so assuming you're at a 50%, I input 50% in my spreadsheet. I answer the question, how much am I paying for that growth? I'm paying a 0.36. Yeah, it wouldn't have made it in the Sunday video. It wouldn't have made it in my Sunday video, my Super Gems video. It wouldn't have made it as a 0.3 either. But this is a stock that has been a high compounder. This is a stock who was one of the top performers of the S&P 500 between 2010 and 2020. This is a stock that is in a very secular trend of solar and energy and electricity became even more compelling now that we have this AI demand for electricity that is pushing electricity prices through the roof in the grid just about everywhere. And so, it's still on the slightly expensive side, but you pay up for the quality. And I will conclude with some of the call highlights as to why we pay up for the quality. So GAN. I think 2025, perhaps the second half then, since that's what battery said. 2025 is going to be the year of gallium nitride. GAN. You're going to have these better power electronics. If you have a gallium nitride phone charger, you know what I'm talking about. These are going to make their way into the inverter. They're going to change the form factor of the inverter. They're going to make them more powerful. They're going to make them smaller. And it's going to make microinverters, in my view, even more compelling compared to string inverters. And I want to point that out too. I had no idea they're working on this, but there's a possibility of possibly removing the combiner box, which would save at least $1,000, but probably closer to $2,000. That's like a $900 item if you buy that box on a third-party website. The installer probably upcharges 30% for that plus labor, so probably $2,000 saving on install. They could save that much on an install by having gallium nitride breakers. I had no idea, but apparently that's going to be a thing. And I looked it up, and it seems like it's going to be one of the hotter trends to update our power electronics with gallium nitride all over. The CEO was fairly bullish about a new product for the Indian premium market. Major market and battery was seen with Modi in India praising Enphase. So who knows how much access they're going to get there? Probably quite a bit. They are looking for acquisitions. Of course, I don't like that. But if they're small acquisitions, I'm okay. I'm okay with small acquisitions. In general, I just don't like acquisitions. It's been shown over and over and over how acquisition destroys capital. But nonetheless, they have buybacks, and they're doing their buybacks. And so when people complain about shares growing and shares outstanding and, executives putting money in their pocket, just expanding the supply, no, they've been reducing the number of shares outstanding, and they're going to keep doing that. And that's probably what they should do since the stock's price is depressed. Battery said he views the IRA going to zero at probably zero probability. And I tend to agree with that. I saw the other day an ad for healthcare.gov, right? Obamacare is still around. It's like when a law is passed in this country, it stays. That has been my experience. Again, I've only been here 15 years, my entire adult life. But maybe if you've been here for 25 years, it's a stable country. That's not going to happen, I don't think. But that's just me. And then lastly, Enphase has a potential to lead in balcony solar, and this may make people laugh, but I can tell you from going back to my own home country that you don't see a department store. Sorry, not a department store, like a hardware store. You don't see a supermarket without these solar balcony solutions just being put at the entrance of the store, and they usually have a nice price, only $13.99. You can go home with 2 solar panels and a plug in directly into any receptacle at your house, and you can take off whatever sun shines on your solar panel. You can take it off from your home's grid. It requires no professionals, nothing to install. It's very, very easy. In some cities, you just have to do a little declaration saying, "Oh, I'm using this." But it's very easy. It's plug-and-play solar. It's an actual real thing. And they are launching their own plug-and-play solar solution. And of course, they have the ability to lead in plug-and-play solar, because plug-and-play solar is, by nature, can only be done with microinverters. And that's also the truth of microinverters. If we see a world of microinverters where every window, every balcony, perhaps your fence at your house, if we see this future with solar panels everywhere, a solar panel everywhere future can only be enabled with microinverters. That's just the way it is. It can only work with microinverters. And I think that's a pretty powerful solution, and you could end up with people with a larger house. Don't forget. I see shutters. Like, for example, you could have shutters, popular in Europe too, right? You could have shutters made out of solar panels. So you could put these just about everywhere. That's one of the main advantages of microinverters. Enphase is still the absolute leader in microinverters and in this technology, and of course, it still looks a little expensive. But I'm fine paying up, and I'm fine holding for now, even though I do agree that it could go down a little more, because I doubt the market will have the foresight to look at the stock over a 5-year period. I think it will be, IRA is going to get repealed, sell. That's I think is going to be the extent, even though it's not founded in reality. So anyways, that's not financial advice, of course, not investment advice, just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for your support. Thank you for those of you who have been following me with Enphase for a long while now. So have a wonderful day. Goodbye.